This is John Cressman with monkeyuncle.com, and today we're doing an endless runner tutorial. There are quite a few endless runner tutorials, but someone up on the GameSalad forums did ask about it, so I'm making this for them. Endless runner tutorial. We're just going to use iPhone 5 landscape. First thing we need to do, of course, is save it. Call it. Alright, so let's start off by going to actors. We're going to create a few actors. First one we're going to call player. Second one we're going to call obstacle. Third one we're going to call platform. And the fourth one will be our spawner. So now we have those. Go ahead and file and save that. We're going to go ahead into player. We're going to add a graphic to a player. I'm actually using the graphics from Kenny, K-E-N-N-E-Y. And we're going to use some of his player graphics here from his platformer set, and of course I had them all open. So we're just going to grab one of the player graphics. Wherever they happen to be. Alright. So we want I'm just going to pull the jump graphic because we're going to need that later. But we're also, while we're here, going to pull over the walk 1 and the walk 2 graphic. We're going to go ahead and drag the walk 1 up here. So now we have the jump graphic, the walk 1, the walk 2. So the first thing we're going to do is come here under physics. We're going to change the density to 0, the friction to 0, and the bounciness to 0.01. We're also going to fix the rotation so he doesn't spin around. We don't really want that. We're going to leave movable clicked. You're going to see me save this. Occasionally GameSalad does like to crash, so we're going to make sure that we set that. So we're going to add some gravity so that he falls down. We're going to do that by creating an accelerate behavior. We're going to do accelerate at direction 270, which is down. You can use the dial, but I like to just put it in there. For speed, I'm going to put a nice 1000 in there. And we're going to set this relative to the scene. So he always falls down. Now because he's always falling down, he's going to fall right off the screen unless he collides with something. So we're going to put a collide behavior. And we're going to say actor of type platform. So now when he hits this platform, he is going to stop. And now we do need some, he's going to be running, so now he's going to actually be kind of running in place. It's going to look like things are coming at him, but they're not really going to be coming at him. So the only actual direction that we're going to do, the only keyboard we're going to do is a space bar. And that's going to be for his jump. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and put in here jump. And when he jumps, what we're going to do is we're going to do a change attribute. And we're going to change player, motion, linear velocity, Y. Now this value is going to vary depending on your particular game, your particular obstacles. I'm just going to put in 300 and we'll see how that works. Right, so now we have his jump, we have his collide, we have his accelerate. Now we don't want him to run into the obstacles, that's going to cause the game to end. So we're going to say if actor overlaps or collides with an obstacle, then we want to end the game. Okay, so right now what we're going to do is we're going to have it change the graphic, and actually we're going to have it change an attribute as well, so we'll just do that a little bit later. We're going to have to create that attribute first. So let's go ahead back into here, home, go into scene. Now we have game highlighted here. We're going to go into attributes, and we're going to choose to create a new attribute. This new attribute is game over. All right. So while we're here, let's go ahead and make a game over actor. And all this game actor is going to do, we're going to have it change attribute so that it is, we're going to go into game over, color, alpha. We're going to set that to 0. Oops, sorry, I did the wrong spot there. We're going to set this to 0. And this will be our game over color alpha. So we're setting the alpha or transparency to 0, which is going to make it invisible. Now, even though it's invisible, it can still display text, and that's what we're going to have it do. We're going to have display text. We're going to make this about 60 because we want to go across the whole screen. We're going to come in here and we're going to type in game space. All right. My dyslexia is showing through. Game over. All right, and we're going to just have it right in the center, and we're going to make this yellow. All right, so now when the game is over, it's going to be yellow. And now when we do display this, we want them to be able to restart the game. So I'm just going to create a rule. I'm going to say when touch, and let's just say or, we're going to change this to any, so when it's touched or when they press the spacebar. Then what we're going to do, that attribute we just created is game off, so what we're going to do is we're going to put game over to false, and then we're going to destroy ourself. Okay, so basically this will display the game over, and when they touch the space or hit the key, it will restart. Go ahead and save that. Let's go out. Now let's go back to our actors. Let's go ahead and take care of this platform now. We're going to come down here and we're going to choose this crate. This crate is going to be our box. We're going to make this 64 by 64. Okay. We're going to come down here into physics. We're going to change the density because we don't want it to really move or react when somebody lands on it. So we're going to change that to 99,999. We're going to change the bounciness to 0. We're going to say movable is false. We don't want this moving. And we're going to set fixed rotation so that, again, it does not move or change directions. We're also going to, we're going to make this across the entire bottom. So we're going to say tile, both horizontally and vertically, and we're going to leave this at 64. Okay. So now, if we come back to our scene, we're going to take the platform, we're going to move it to about the end, and we're just going to go all the way so we have some overlap on either side. And now let's go into player. We need to change the player's size because right now it doesn't match, and we're going to change that to 64. Actually, let's do 64 by 32. That should make the right aspect ratio. The only other thing I want in here is we're going to, now that we have run into this obstacle, okay, we've created our attribute, so we're going to say if it runs into the obstacle, game over equals true. Okay. Now if the game over equals true, so attribute game over is true, then we're going to actually display a new image. Now let's go back here to the alien, and I believe we have an alien, kind of a duck image, which might make a good death image. So I'm just going to drag that over there. So it's going to change that. Otherwise, we're going to create an animate behavior to make it appear that he's running. Okay? And we're going to drag in our two running images. So there's running 1 and running 2. One, two. And now the only other thing we do is we're going to create a jump image. So I'm going to go ahead and, this animate gets messed up. So I'm going to go ahead and drag this over. I'm going to drag the animate in here. And what I'm going to say is if attribute, I have to create the attribute first, sorry. And that's going to be a boolean, and that boolean is going to be jumped, or jumping, okay? And that's going to keep track of when he's jumping. So, we're going to come back up here. We have our collide behavior with platform. We're also going to create a new behavior. We're going to put it above that. We're going to say if the actor overlaps or collides with a platform, then we're going to set this player jumping to false. So basically if he touches the platform, that means that he's no longer jumping, and we're going to set it to false. Now let's go back down here to our game over. So if it's not game over and player jumping is false, then we're going to do the animate behavior. Otherwise, we're going to change the image to the jump image. So we're going to call this jump or run. All right. So now let's go back to our home. We're going to go back to scene, and we're going to drop our little guy right in here. There he is. In fact, let's throw him up here. And notice how he's running. And I can jump. And he looks awfully small. So let's come back up here into our actor, and we're just going to change this to 128 and 64. And now let's check him out now. There we go. Now he doesn't seem to be jumping very high, so I don't like that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here. Remember how I told you we can play around with that number? Let's change this to 500. So now I'm going to hit, and now he seems to really jump. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go ahead and go into obstacle. I'm just going to choose again a graphic, and we're going to go with this coin box because that looks like a good graphic. I'm going to change the size to 64. Okay. I'm going to go into physics. I'm going to change this to 0, density to 0, friction to 0, and bounciness to 0. And now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to give it gravity. Sorry, meant to grab an accelerate behavior just like we did before. We're going to make this 1,000 and this is 270, so we're going to have it fall straight down, and again it'll fall off the screen if we don't collide with something. So we're going to add a collide behavior. I'm going to say when it collides with the platform. Alright, and now we want this moving down to give it the illusion that we're running along. So we want this to move, and the way we're going to do that is we're going to change obstacle, motion, linear velocity, x. Now we're heading to the left of the screen. The left, the numbers, the coordinates on the screen get smaller, so we want to have a negative number. So we're going to use negative 100 and see how that looks. And now we're just going to test this. So I'm going to hit scene. I'm going to use this obstacle. I'm going to put it right here. And we're going to see what happens. Now, see, it's coming at us. I'm going to jump and I'm going to land on it and I die. So we might want it to make it a little faster because he doesn't jump very quickly. Let's try that now. Oh, he still died. There we go. Now, this obstacle will just keep going. In fact, I'm going to make this actually 48 by 48 because it'll make it a little bit smaller. Now, this obstacle, even when it goes off the screen, it'll just keep going. And then when it gets to the edge of that platform, it'll just keep falling. So we need to make sure that we clear it. So what we're going to say is when attribute obstacle position x is less than, and here we're just going to put obstacle size width divided by 2. And we're going to make this a negative number because we want it to be completely off the screen. So negative size width divided by 2. And then just for fun, we're going to say destroy. So now it'll go off and it will get destroyed. So now what we need is our spawner. Now the one thing we didn't do is this game over graphic. We need to spawn this graphic. So when the player dies, we're going to spawn the graphic, spawn actor, we're going to spawn game over, and we're going to put it about the middle of the screen. And the way we do that is we're going to say devices, screen, or actually we can go game, display size, width divided by 2, and then for the height we're going to do the exact same except with game, display size, height divided by 2. That should put it directly in the center of the screen as long as we put relative to actor. Put both of these relative to actor. So now let's see what happens here. Bing, game over. Now if I click up, and he's back to being a happy runner. Let's file save. Now for the fun part, we're going to create this spawner, and what we're going to do is we're going to create a couple of attributes. These are going to be real attributes. The first one's going to be called spawn timer. And the second one's going to be called spawn interval. The first thing we're going to do when this is created is set spawn timer to spawn time, which is the internal time for this particular object. We're going to set this interval at, this is going to be a number of seconds. So let's say every 3 seconds, okay, we're going to have it spawn something. All right. So we're going to give them a little bit of time. Let's say 5 seconds before it starts. Now let's go. Actually, let's just set it to spawn interval, which happens to be 3. So it gives them 3 seconds. Now we need to create a rule, and this rule is going to say when attribute spawner spawn timer is less than spawn or self time, then we're going to spawn a new obstacle, and we're going to have it spawn at the spawners X and Y coordinates. And we're going to spawn an obstacle. Okay. Now the only other thing we need to do is we don't want to spawn when the game's over. We can, but we don't want to. So what we're going to do is say attribute game over is false. So when the game is not over and the self timer, we're going to spawn. Now the only other thing we need to do is we need to reset the timer. And the way we do that, actually, you know what, I'm just going to X out of here. We already have the exact same rule up here. I'm just going to do the Alt or Command and drop. And now we're going to reset the timer by setting it to this current time plus the spawn. So it's going to keep spawning. And actually, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and remove this rule for now. That way you can, well, maybe I can jump them. We'll see. So there's the first one. And right now we need to go in here. We're going to remove this obstacle, and we need to add a spawner. And this spawner we're going to add right here. Okay. So spawner is off the screen, we can't see it, but it's going to spawn them and they're going to go down the screen. So let's see what that looks like. You can just see the edge of the spawner. See, there goes the first one. There goes the second one. That might be a little too slow. So 3 seconds might be too little. So let's go to 2 seconds. You know what? He can probably get even faster than that. Let's go to 1.5. I don't know if I can do one every 1 second. That might be a little too much. And there you have it. Now, there's all kinds of things you can do with this. Right now I can kind of double jump here. We can take that ability away. But there's all kinds of things, but that should give you the start of an endless runner game. So thank you very much. This is John Cresson with monkeyuncle.com. This template will be up on our site. And thank you for watching.